me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello. Playing the cello has so many pluses. It never grows old.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Cello Chat, 5 o'clock on a Friday. Just one more thing that is going to provide the segue between whatever you're doing until 5 o'clock and a very intensive and productive weekend of practicing. This is going to fuel your practice for sure. Before we get started, I want to thank Young Auditorium again, our sponsor for the month. Just a wonderful lineup of shows, superb venue for all manner of performances right on the UW-Whitewater campus. Check them out at uww.edu/Young Auditorium. So with me today is Hannah Wolkstein. Hannah, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. It's really great to have you on the program here. And just to start things off, we always see what we can find out for anybody who isn't familiar with you and your teaching and your playing as of yet. If you provide an overview of that background and even how you got started on the cello.
Sure. So I come from a musical family. So learning an instrument was a requirement in my family. So my father was actually a piano performance for a time, and my mother is a professional harpist. So I have an older sister, and she picked the violin. So I guess the thought was, let's try this else and avoid the competition. Interestingly enough, I have a younger brother who also played the violin, but they're 9 years apart. So I guess, there was enough age gap that was okay. So yeah, I think, we just, my family gravitated towards string instruments, and I think I got a little nudge from my dad to try it. And so I did. I played some piano a couple years before that. I think I was 6 when I started the piano, and then about 8 when I started the cello. So that's kind of how that began.
All right. And then your schooling and what you do now.
Yeah. So I studied cello with a few different teachers through high school, and then attended UW-Madison for my undergraduate. I studied with Parry Karp for of my undergraduate, both cello and then chamber music, and then actually had an interesting turn of events. I had a sort of a family connection to Wolfgang Laufer because my aunt, my mom's sister, is a professional cellist. She actually is a permanent sub with the Boston Symphony, and she studied with Mr. Laufer when he was in Milwaukee, and she was in college. So I actually had been taking some periodic lessons with him when I was at UW. I would drive to Milwaukee. My teacher, Parry Karp, was in. We're taking a sabbatical, and they were leaving. And I talked to Mr. Laufer, and he said, well, if you're interested, you could come work with me. At the time, he was living in Atlanta, Georgia. So I took the leap, and I left UW, ended up being for a few years, and studied with him there. He wasn't really affiliated with a school, so it was just private lessons, but they were intense. I think they might have even been twice a week. lessons. And yeah, it was a really special relationship. My first time being away from home, because I grew up in Madison, then went to school in Madison, and I didn't know anybody else in Atlanta. So he was a bit like a father figure while I was there, very, very kind and nurturing. And I felt really privileged to work with him, really one of his only students at the time. And he just saw something in me that willing to take the time to work with like that. So it just felt like an opportunity I couldn't turn down. Yeah. So I did that with him for 2 years. And then I actually then moved to Toronto and studied at the Glenn Gould School, which is affiliated with the Royal Conservatory of Music, for 1 year, and studied with Bryan Epperson, who at the time was principal of the Canadian Opera Company. And then after that, my parents said, we think you should actually complete your degree. So I returned to Madison, but then I studied with Vardi. So I did 2 years of study with Vardi, and then obviously still doing intensive performance work, but I actually got a degree in music education. I thought, it would give me other options as well. And I liked teaching. Kind of throughout this, I was, doing some private teaching on the side. So then I finally got my degree after a very, windy way.
Sometimes the winding paths are the most fun.
Yeah.
So with that breadth of cello teachers with very different styles of teaching, what did you kind of do with that to create your own approach? I mean, you of course, we all add our own stamp regardless to our own teaching, but in what ways did your various teachers influence you as a teacher?
Well, I think with Wolfgang Laufer, we worked so much on the musicality, which I think was already sort of a natural instinct in me, the musical part of it. So I think that has, influenced the way I teach. I remember he used to say, and, I don't know how you felt about this, this could be controversial, but when we would work on Bach together, he would say, people had emotions back then too, it doesn't have to be so straight. And, and that kind of stuck with me in the way that I approach Bach and teach Bach as well. So just things like that. And with Vardi, he was just the right teacher at the right time. I felt like, I had all of this experience and I was musical and, I had a lot of good things going on, but there were just some little technical things that still needed to be taken care of. And I felt like he helped me a lot with that. So some of the technical ways I approach playing and teaching came from working with Mr. Vardi.
Excellent. And you also have Suzuki training as well. I imagine that you do not just use that Suzuki training with Suzuki students per se.
Right.
How does that influence your teaching as well?
Well, to be honest, I actually only did book one. So I don't have a huge amount of Suzuki training, but I do feel like, book one is where it all unfolds and gets spelled out to you what, would come afterward. It definitely helped me, just how you really start students out and get set up, and then the way that, you approach the different songs and the different games and ways that you can, keep younger students engaged and interested. So that definitely played a role. I still have my Q1 book with all the notes written in each song that I that I learned and discussed at that class. So
excellent. All right. So regardless, young or old student, when you sense that you have a student who needs a pep talk, just a motivational talk or shot in the arm, of course we do different things for different students, but what are some of your favorite go-to things in your playbook for that sort of inspiration and motivation?
Well, with my students, I really try to let them have a say in what they work on in terms of pieces. That gets easier to do, as the student gets a little more advanced and there's more options. But, I'll try to find a variety of options at their level and say, I want you to listen to a recording of these and tell me what would make you excited, because if you're not excited about it, you're not going to practice, and it's going to be rough for both of us, quite honestly. So that's one thing that I try to do. And I do think it helps because, man, if they like the piece, you can see a big difference in how much they practice and how quickly they learn it. And then another thing I do is just, I've given students names of different cellists to just look up on YouTube and listen to and watch how they play this, and just have discussions about what they noticed and what they liked and things like that.
Excellent. Well, now for you have quite a track record of successful teaching. When you have a student who is trying to go for those concerto competition spots, let alone, even just getting into the top orchestra of youth orchestra, for example, they can get to a point where even if they loved the piece when they picked it out, and they still love the piece, they maybe have gotten a little bit, maybe less enthusiastic about still polishing it further, and then still further, and then still further. What sorts of things do you do to keep them still going and wanting to practice at the same rate in order to get over those high hurdles?
Yeah. Well, I think a big thing is planning ahead. So looking ahead even to the following year and saying, is this something you want to do? And, these competitions tend to be around the same time of year. So you can sort of know that and plan ahead and say, look, if you want to do this, I think we should start now. So I think it's helpful to give them plenty of time to learn it, because if they do start to get a little burnt out, there's time for them to take a step back and work on something else and then come back to it. I've noticed with my students and with myself that sometimes just, taking a little break with pieces can be really helpful. But if you're only starting the piece a couple months before the competition, you don't really have time to do that. So planning ahead and giving yourself that breath to take the time if you need it.
Okay, so your website definitely shows the entrepreneurial side of needing to show how, what you have to offer as a private teacher and for performances. If you have a student who's very serious about music, are there things that you would recommend to them to try and think along the kind of the businessy side of things as life as a performer and teacher?
I guess that hasn't come up a lot yet with my students specifically, but I do think, website is helpful to get your name out there. That was my husband who made that for me. So so the credit all goes to him. Just having your name out there and accessible online. And then, like you said, just, being really clear about what you can do in your experience and what you can offer.
All right. Now, what sorts of projects do you have coming up and performances?
Yeah, so for the last 3 years or so, I've been in a piano trio that I helped start with one of your group members as well. He runs around and does everything. So we actually have an upcoming performance on Halloween. It's not a Halloween themed concert, but it just lands on Halloween. It's in the afternoon though, so you can go see a regular concert, enjoy your Halloween activities. But it's at the Monroe Arts Center in Monroe, Wisconsin.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. And after that?
We just had a performance a couple weeks ago at the Stoughton Opera House. And then we have this one at Monroe Arts Center. And then we have a few other concerts, kind of in the works, but no dates set yet.
All right. Terrific. Chamber music there's nothing else like it, is there?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, terrific. Thank you so much, Hannah. It's been awesome talking to you. And best of luck with the performances and with teaching and with whatever else life sends our way.
Thanks so much. It's fun.
Well, terrific. And thanks again to our sponsors, to Young Auditorium, and to you all. May you have the most productive weekend of practicing ever. And I'll see you again next Friday. Take care.